Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back here with another video, and sticking to the theme and the topic of Italian football, as it's I was going to say Italy's History Month. It's Italy's Unification Day on the 17th. I thought I would stick to the football-related stuff, the Italian football-related, and I've got so many ideas in my mind. I'm just trying to think of how to condense them so the video is not too long, as I often worry about. But anyway, I'm feeling a bit anxious. I don't know why. But as ever, please send me in the comments, or rather comment any constructive criticism or answer or things you like about the videos. In this case, this video. I really appreciate it. And also, yeah, if you send me both constructive criticism and also positive feedback, I think that'd be pretty cool. I certainly need some positive feedback to encourage me right now. But yeah, for some reason I'm feeling a bit anxious. I don't know why. But I suppose, again, I don't want the video to be too long, so I'm wary about talking too much, and also, yeah, the videos being too long for people's attention span, and also. I said before at the start of the month, like March to the very victory, given my patterns, I often say very. So I'll say, I was talking about March to the very victory, but at the moment it doesn't feel like that. It feels a little bit like it's a nightmare month, considering how positive I wanted it to be. And I really wanted Italian teams at least to do well in Europe, things like that, and Celtic to do well, but it hasn't worked out so far. So, and the Champions League, all four Italian teams have been knocked out of the competition. So it was AC Milan who didn't get past the group stage. Then I think it was the next team to lose was Lazio when they were actually leading, and they lost. And there was Napoli who lost to Barcelona, and then there was Inter Milan last night who were actually winning. And if the away goals rule was kept, Inter would have actually went through, but penalties, so it's quite disappointing. Last season, getting to 3 finals and then not winning any was also really disappointing. I was hoping Italian teams could go one further. I was hoping Inter, the remaining Champions League team, could go all the way, and I was hoping that Roma, who got to the final, would get to the final. I hope they will get to the final. So I was thinking of making this video a lot earlier, but because I wanted to focus on my writing and other things, and I was procrastinating, it's taken me quite a long time. But I think they're playing as we speak. I think 3 or 4 Italian teams are playing tonight. So anyway, I hope they all go through, and I would love for Roma to get to the final and hopefully win it. And I would love for it to be an all Italian final. So with that being said, here goes. So here is a list of my ideas. I know I do an intro and then I try and do a list of my ideas because I find it easier to do in list form. So here you go. Number 1. I was thinking I should stick to one thing at a time, but I had so many ideas to cover for number 1. But I'm going to try and stick to just one thing. I hope, as I say, Roma goes to the final and wins the competition, wins the Europa League. Number 2, I dream that it will be 2 Italian teams in the final. I hope that Roma and possibly Atalanta get to the final and face each other. It would be cool if there was an all-Italian final, as there was a long time ago. I'd love to see an all-Italian final again, which could mean that Italian teams are coming back to becoming near the top. But I hope they can catch up with and even go ahead of Spanish teams and English teams. But I think they're a bit behind, so it would be hard to see that happening. But I hope in the future, as soon as possible, Italian teams go back to winning the most trophies overall. Number 3, I did want to say a few points in number 1, but I was torn between saying quite a few different ideas or just sticking to one idea. And what I was going to say is, what if, or as it's Italy's Unification Day, as I say, on Sunday, what if, and I know I mentioned this point recently, but what if Italian teams, even though they're rivals in domestic competitions, rivals domestically, what if they, even rival teams like Lazio and Roma, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus and Torino, and so on and so forth, all the Italian teams basically, what if they all got behind each other, all possible Italian citizens new migrants that come in, people from the diaspora and whatnot, could all come together, symbolic of Italy's Unification Day, to all get behind each other when they play against overseas teams as they're representing Italy in European competitions, and to see Italian football get back to the top again. Number 4, again, it would be great if they could all unite even rival teams. And I would love for Serie A and Italian football to come together, generally all those involved in Italian football, the national team and the club teams, working with politicians, councillors, politicians, councillors, and all those involved in it, maybe even like the police, and basically all possible members of Italian society and those from the diaspora, and so Italians living in America and Brazil, Canada, and elsewhere all around the world, and also the migrants who come into Italy, the new migrants, all working together towards the benefit of Italian football and uniting together, which again I think would be quite fitting for Italy's Independence Day. So I think that would be pretty cool. And as I say, get behind each other, back each other when they're playing non-Italian teams. And again, I know this is another point I mentioned recently, but Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, and transcontinental, especially Eurasian nations, I would love it if those 4 blocks or groups of nations all support each other in sports and possibly politically, and possibly got behind Italian teams, Spanish teams, French and Portuguese, and again got behind each other's teams when they're playing non-Mediterranean teams, for instance, or teams especially who are not from those regions. So I'd especially love for Mediterranean teams to unite together when they're playing, like say, English or German or Dutch teams, for instance, and that kind of thing. Number 5, I would love to read from and hear from Italian football fans about what sort of things you think Italian football could do to improve, what they could learn from other leagues. Could Italian football get back to the top? And if so, how could they attract more investment? Another thing I was going to mention, actually, in point number 4, and I forgot, is what if again, working with the police, what if they could look at how they can tackle match hooliganism and things like that, hooliganism and violence, crime and criminality and prejudice and things like that, which cost Italian football, like it could cost Italian football in fines. They might even get points deductions or even bans, heaven forbid. I know, unfortunately, I was going to say in the intro, but I thought the intro was going to run a bit long and I almost forgot to mention this point, given my memory. But when Roma played Brighton recently, and I think they're playing tonight, there was a match trouble, which I think happened away from the stadium, which I hope will be good for Roma's defence, as apparently UEFA are making an investigation on the crowd trouble. But I think they could say it happened away from the stadium, but that's where fans could actually cost Italian clubs, whereas maybe they would be better to sort of donate to those clubs and have pride in Italian teams doing well in Europe, both at club and country level. Number 6, as I say, I personally think it would be cool. I know I have a strange thing where I sort of support all the Italian teams. I'd love for them to get as much investment and sponsorship and general money and funds as possible. I think it'd be cool if they got behind each other. I'd say even if they're rivals, like Roma and Lazio are bitter rivals, but I think when they're playing against English or German or Dutch or other such teams, I think they should back each other and try and see each other, want to see each other doing well against those foreign teams, if you like, or I prefer to use the term overseas teams, because foreign seems a bit of a harsh term. I think foreign, really, if you think about the word, means something that doesn't belong there, so it feels a bit harsh to say foreign, but overseas teams, I'll say. I think let's say a team does well in Italy, they win the league a lot, like Juventus used to win the league a lot in Italy till recently. They won like 8 or 9 trophies in a row, but if Italian teams don't do well internationally, it doesn't look as good, whereas competing in a team that does well, that's known to be the top in terms of European and international success, I think looks a lot better, although some people might disagree with me. Maybe I'm being naive, but I would, as someone who loves Italian football generally, and again, given that Sunday is Italy's Unification Day, I would love for them to network together and like learn from each other, and also root for each other when they're playing non-Italian teams. So all possible people of Italian descent, and also Anglo-Indians and other Eurasians like myself, and migrants who come into Italy. I think it'd be cool if they all got behind the team. Probably a bit hypocritical of me since I live in the UK and still support Italian teams. But anyway, moving on, number 7, as I often say, I would love for Italian with Celtic and see what they could learn from each other and get behind each other. I hope Celtic fans will vote for, if you like, or root for or support Italian teams in Europe, and hope in turn Italians will support Celtic in terms of their domestic trophies, or even when they play against other teams in Europe, even in many cases, like they play against German or Dutch or English teams or whatnot. Number 8, I'll say I hope that partnership will be something where they could learn from each other and that kind of thing. And I'd love to hear what and read from Italian fans about. I think I've discussed it with fellow Italian fans before, and they say that they don't like to see other Italian teams do well, and so probably might disagree with me on that. But I think it'd be cool if from Sunday onwards, like as I'll say Italy's Unification Day, if they all got behind. If I'm talking about my own dreams for Italian football clubs, I think it'd be cool if they all, even though they're rivals, support each other when they're playing against non-Italian teams. Number 9, I would love to have. Again, I know it's another point I mentioned, but I would love to have Zoom chats and sometimes one-to-one chats where hopefully we can find a way to record them on YouTube and to record Facebook or on social media generally, where we discuss calcio, Italian football, and how to improve it and what Italian football teams could do to improve at club and country level, including obviously the youth level. And number 10, on that note, as I say, I'd love to see Italian youth teams do better, although I think it's a difficult balance, and this is another thing that I think would be a challenge, is to find out how to balance the bringing in more younger players whilst at the same time winning trophies in the short term, because I'm very impatient. I want to see Italian teams win trophies like yesterday, so to speak. Last year, I really was disappointed when all 3 Italian teams lost in the final. So I would love to see Italian teams hopefully win trophies this season. I really hope the Europa League is an all-Italian final. I hope preferably Roma and maybe AC Milan or Atalanta get to the final. And I'd be quite happy even if it was Atalanta and AC Milan, as long as it was 2 Italian teams. Although because I want Roma to be the new Giallorossi, the new Real Madrid, I dream for them to do well. So it's a bit of a dilemma, but I'd love to see any Italian team do well. I hope that Fiorentina can win the Conference League this season and go one step further than they did last season, where they lost in the final. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video of me waffling, and I'm out. Peace and love.